I've been reacting to top lists of best games of all time for the past few years now, and the main problem I have with them is that PC gaming is generally ignored, if not purposefully erased from gaming history. So here's my list of top games ignored by most top games lists you'll encounter.
Super groovy!
If you're new here, I'm Stefan, the Retro Gaming Anthropologist. I've been playing video games for more than 35 years at this point. I focus on retro PC games and gaming culture, as well as preservation and documentation from an Eastern European perspective. So here's my continued list of top games ignored by most top games lists you'll encounter. So let's start with Jagged Alliance 2. It's one of those games that can ruin entire genres for you, because almost nothing since has managed to do everything it does and do it as well. At first glance, it's a realistic turn-based tactical game. But at a slightly longer first glance, you notice the deep mercenary stat and skill systems, memorable characters, voice acting that still lives rent-free in your head.
I'm sure I see a putty cat.
Verticality in an open world, and an absurd amount of mechanical depth for a late 90s PC game. It's possibly the least lauded, not-so-secret CRPG in history, and almost never seeing it mentioned alongside other classics like XCOM is quite baffling.
Yeah? Superlative! My gun is without bullets!
Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. I mentioned the title in my previous video, but it definitely needs its own entry on the list because it is sadly ignored otherwise. It overshadowed its series prequel, Tiberian Sun, which also doesn't show up on lists either, but for a moment there, Red Alert 2 was neck and neck with Starcraft in terms of popularity in the overall RTS playing community. I was on the Starcraft side of that discourse if my many rants on it weren't enough of a hint. People, Starcraft is such an important game in the history of gaming itself. It's of such inherent importance that it shouldn't even be on a list. It should be its own thing. It's just, oh, it's just Starcraft. It can't be on any list. It just is. But I have played my fair share of Red Alert 2 as well. Europa Universalis. Again, any of them, but I have the third one, so might as well use it to represent this grand strategy series where you shape the course of world history. And look, I understand it's not the most mainstream of niches. Historical grand strategy, I mean, but it's a pretty big damn niche. Paradox and Slytherin basically made a business model out of catering to it, and despite that, I don't see them mentioned really anywhere of note as being impactful. Star Trek: Birth of the Federation absolutely nailed the spirit of its license and supplied a solid 4X strategy title for its time. While spaceship combat was sort of the bread and butter goal of the game, featuring pretty cool battles in 3 dimensions, the layered diplomacy, espionage and research systems, coupled with each faction feeling quite different, really made it more than Civilization in space with a Star Trek skin on it. Definitely it was glitchy, and surely it was janky. I'll grant you all of those. However, nowadays it got patched by the community, and all of those issues are literal things of the past.
The battle is over. We won.
Beneath a Steel Sky is a point-and-click adventure that I feel like I've sort of been seeing mentioned a bit more often lately, but nowhere near as much as it deserves. Developed by the studio behind the Broken Sword series, Beneath a Steel Sky combines dystopian cyberpunk themes with solid writing and puzzles that mostly respected your intelligence. My point being that if this game had been made by LucasArts, it would probably be permanently etched into every best adventure games list out there. Alas, it wasn't.
You're not gonna watch, are you? I always suspected you of being a voyeur.
Come on, just do it.
Here goes. There. How was it for you?
If you're digging this video and want to dive deeper into the world of retro PC gaming, hit that subscribe button to get notified whenever I post a new video. Let's keep the flame of retro PC gaming alive together. Darklands is one of those games that feels almost alien by modern standards, and honestly, even by the standards of its own time. Released in 1992 by Microprose, Darklands is a historical CRPG set in a fantastical version of medieval Germany. It blends real-world history with folklore into something that will not be simple nor easy to approach. It is definitely systems-heavy and quite obtuse. You really have to put in your time to understand its vibe and internal language, but if you do, you'll be rewarded with an incredibly immersive experience. Darklands isn't ignored because it wasn't important. It's ignored because it's simply too difficult for the masses. American McGee's Alice is a game that people remember, but rarely do I see acknowledged for what it actually accomplished. This wasn't just Goth Alice in Wonderland before it was cool. It was a full-on character-driven action platformer with a very clear visual art direction, unsettling atmosphere, and surprisingly solid combat. Alice walked, so a lot of later twisted fairy tale reinterpretations could run, and yet it's strangely absent from most discussions about influential PC action titles.
And if not, there may be more than one way to skin a cat, if you'll pardon the expression.
Most unpleasant metaphor. Please avoid it in future.
Commandos Behind Enemy Lines appealed to a much wider array of gamers beyond those who were already dedicated to turn-based tactics, possibly because this was a real-time tactics game that simply looked great. Trial and error was part of the learning process, and success felt earned in a way few puzzle games managed at the time. Commandos taught an entire swath of gamers to think tactically and be patient. It defined a whole subgenre, and yet rarely gets the recognition it deserves as a foundational PC strategy title.
Just leave it to me. Consider it done.
Alarm!
That's easy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Coming right over, sir. No problem, man.
Wizardry 8 is the swan song of one of the most important series in CRPG history, and it's somehow the least talked about gaming series as well. Wizardry 8 is arguably the most approachable entry in the series despite its massive and complex systems, the very new releases notwithstanding. It blends high fantasy concepts with sci-fi elements in a way typical for the series. It's difficult and unapologetically old school, meaning it is mechanically dense, but that's exactly why it still has a devoted fanbase. When people talk about the roots of CRPGs, and I do that all the time, computer role-playing game, and then skip Wizardry entirely, which I don't, video in the pinned comment, it feels like skipping a chapter of history.
Don't forget to pillage the bodies!
The Incredible Machine is pure PC gaming joy distilled into floppy disk-sized brilliance. It's a puzzle game about building absurd Rube Goldberg-type machines, but it's also secretly an early lesson in logic, physics, and creative problem-solving. The Incredible Machine is one of those games that shaped how people thought about computers as creative tools, not just entertainment devices, and its influence is way bigger than its absence from top lists would suggest. What are some of the super important PC titles you never see mentioned on top lists? Share them in the comments. Click on the video on the left of your screen if you'd like to see more from me. If you'd like to support me, thank you. There's a link to Patreon on the right of the screen. I post a newsletter through Patreon for free, by the way. In case you're a GOG user, please consider using my GOG affiliation link in the description for your next purchase. I've been Stefan, the Retro Gaming Anthropologist. Thank you for watching, and good luck out there.